All right, folks. Monday morning here on the new pre-market prop, but things are kind of the same from the end of last week. The rally continues in just about everything. Retail picking it up, but don't tell Monday.com that there's a rally going on. We'll discuss those earnings. Christian Fromhertz, he's going to pop in at 8:30, get his take on the market. Special guest at 9 a.m. Brian Shannon, Alpha Trends, will be joining us. Get your cup of coffee. Get ready. We got 2 hours of pre-market prep.
The volatility right now is really incredible.
Wow, look at that consolidation on the upper right chart.
You know what we've seen this earnings season? Some of these expected moves get even more violent. This is why I have switched my strategy 10 years ago. And if you're chasing, you're in trouble.
All right, good morning, traders and investors. Let's go right to the charts. S&P 500 index futures trading up 26 and a quarter handles in uncharted territory. The buck is strong today, up 50 cents. TLT, bond market close. We got to remember that. USO, that's down a buck 46, 71.67. GLD down 210 at 245.86. Silver, SLV flat, Bitcoin having a big day, over 80K, new all-time high, 83,030. That's a $5,670. Bring in AB and Triple D simultaneously. First of all, I don't know if we have any veterans in the chat here, but I want to give a big shout out to our veterans here on Veterans Day, protecting our country. Bond markets are closed. That's not stopping the market. But number one, man, I just want to thank all of our veterans out there for your hard work in protecting our country.
For sure, for sure. Remembrance Day in Canada as well. So obviously, veterans, everything you do, everything you've done for us, for our freedoms. I mean, so many of us take all this for granted. You know, if you're in other countries, maybe you don't, but we do over here. We don't have to worry about, what's going to happen. We go out, it's safe. I mean, unbelievable, the country, Canada and the US where we live. So
All right,
thank you very much.
I got a very important question for both of you guys. Okay? Since it's our own show, are we allowed to talk about sports?
I don't know. The chat's gonna dictate that one. The chat's gonna dictate that one. It was the chat that was controlling that more than Benzinga for sure. So I don't know. What do you want to say? Quick. 1 minute of sports only. 1 minute of sports. Although it is a 2-hour show right now, so we don't know how long this is gonna last. This 2 hours, but Joel, 1 minute of sports probably in a 2-hour show is not that much.
Joel, did you stay up for the whole game last night?
No, I did not. I would primarily like to say go Lions. Got the Lions shirt on today. Bad weekend, Saturday and Sunday for the Wolverines. But, man, 5 INTs and they still win the game. I'm flabbergasted about that one.
Yeah, it looked like the Lions looked like they had no business being in that game, but they just kind of hung around and stuck around. The next thing you know, had a chance to win at the end, and they did. But, yeah, so Lions – they go 8-1 now? I mean, incredible season so far for the Lions.
For so many years, Lions, and I've known this, been a Lions fan since I was a little kid. For so many years, I've always said, bad teams find a way to lose. Think about that season. I don't know. It's like 10 years ago, probably longer than that, dating myself. But it's like, we were in so many games and we would just find a way to lose. We'd be ahead in the fourth quarter and we would lose somehow. It would be a fluke play and we would lose. Bad teams find a way to lose. Good teams find a way to win. And unbelievable that the Lions find a way to win again yesterday here. This is the definition of a good team, folks. You know, when you think you're out of it, you find a way to come back. You find a way to win. Go Lions.
All right, let's bring it back to stocks, though. Before we lose too much of the interest of the chat,
the numbers are going down. Don't like. You got to like the show. Hit the like button, folks. Hit the like button because we're going into stocks right now. More likes, more stocks. More likes, more stocks.
Charts up here real quick. And so the theme of today, or what we're going to be talking about, at least to start here, is this anything that has a retail focus or retail story behind it has been running. And we'll start with none other than Bitcoin, or we'll start with Tesla, then we'll go to Bitcoin. So let's go to Tesla first, Joel, which is up more than 55% in a month, which if you're trading penny stocks or something, 55% in a month is a pretty big move regardless. But when you're talking about a $1 trillion company to move 55, well, it's $1 trillion now. But I mean, Tesla has just been on this incredible run, obviously, into the election, post-election, and showing no signs of slowing down, up another 7% pre-market this morning, $344 a share.
This is an unbelievable move. And even though, and I've been the biggest Tesla bull out there, you can talk if you've been listening to the show, if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome, first of all. But if you've been listening to the show for the last year, I've been saying, just keep buying Tesla. I just keep accumulating Tesla. I've been dollar cost averaging into Tesla. I never would have thought the stock would go up 50% in a month. Even on the election, even on everything, that, went Musk's way here lately, this is an incredible move. I mean, this is called melt up. We've seen this before stocks start melting up. This is melt up mode right now where people just have to get in. They have to get in. And normally when you get these upside capitulatory type moves here, it's usually more of a selling opportunity than a buying opportunity. I haven't sold any shares of Tesla. I'm in it for the long-term story. And I think long-term, the stock goes a lot higher. I think short-term, I wouldn't be chasing here. I think at this point in time, you've got to wait for an entry point. Like the stocks went from 240 to 340 in a straight line. So maybe it continues because we know a lot of information has changed. Musk is in the driver's seat right now. I think the days of getting this under 200 are long gone. It may never get under 200 again. It may never get under 250 again. Now, we never say never. But, I mean, there's a lot of cool things coming, and people say, well, it's 100 times earnings. So you could give that whole argument. You could have given that argument, a month ago when it was at 240, though, that was trading 95 times earnings. And it's just a car company, and its market cap is more than all the other car companies combined, all of that. But we know, if you've been listening to the show, the reason for the moves here is more than that. The stuff that's coming is going to be nothing short of incredible, from humanoids to full self-drive to robo-taxis to the energy business to the semi-truck, which nobody is talking about there. They're building that huge semi-plant. There's so much different revenue sources coming that to just say, oh, this is just a car company that's trading 100 times their car sales doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, again, we've moved up a lot here. So as bullish as I am Tesla, this is a big move really fast, Joel. So I'm going to throw it to their technical analyst, Joel Alcon.
Wow, there are no technicals.
And
there are no technicals. I mean, there really isn't. And I'll just frankly,
well, there's always technicals.
No, there's not.
Let's go back to 4 years ago and start talking about all the highs.
Okay, the next monthly high is 384.29. Okay, that's the next month. And I tried this trick again too. I did the next weekly high. You have a weekly high at 336. See you on that as of right now. You may see that today. The next weekly high after that is 384.29. Now, I guess the only thing, if you want to pull another trick out of the bag here, and I don't have my retracement calculator here because I never put in the 0.618. There's all those crazy fibs that we don't pay attention to. That's what you got to look for. So if someone has a handy calculator out there, 414.50 down to 101.81. Let's just call that a 315 point move. Do 0.618 of that, and that's your next resistance. Pre-market high, that stands at 346.99. And maybe if you want a psychological level of 350, that's all I have for you, folks. The charts, there's nothing there. And it will. Tesla's a heavily traded stock, traded almost 10 million this morning. So it will give you 1 or 2, 3 highs in the same area, maybe if you're looking to sell it. But right now, I mean, it's blue skies here for Tesla. It does pay to chase, Dennis. It does pay to chase Tesla.
Well, it did in this case, and it paid to chase a lot of these moves because it's just new information. I mean, coming in here now, 4 years of Trump, where he's basically best friends with the president. I mean, this is a huge edge for Tesla. in a regulatory environment that was going to challenge FSD everywhere, it'd still be at the state level, but think of all the red states. Think of all the support there's going to be. It definitely gets easier from that was the biggest hurdle. When Gordon Johnson on the show talking about regulatory, never get regulatory approval. FSD will never get it over here. Never get it over here. Never get it over here. Never. We've heard this again and again and again. It's years away. The states will never. It's changed. It changed overnight. The regulatory approvals, not that they're imminent by any means. FSD still has a ways to go, but it got easier all of a sudden. And, if they can get this FSD and continue to improve it, which they are, it's a game changer, not only for Tesla, for everyone.
Yeah,
I
look
mean,
at
I just
GM.
love the idea of not driving my car.
You see GM? GM is participating here. The post earnings move had to check back. That's moving up. It looks like it's clearing, had a pair of highs at the 56 area. You can now look at that as support. Ford getting off the mat after its earnings report. Look at that. The big boy stepped up in the lower 10 handle. We did talk about that. I don't know about Stellantis here. That's still kind of in the doghouse, but so far the auto's benefiting, and GM's always had that good earnings. It just never got rewarded for
Yeah, but
it.
you got GM, Ford, and Ford. Maybe Ford's sleepy. Maybe there is, and they have the fundamentals are not bad here. We've talked about that too. Ford, GM. When you look at that they're been making more money than they have. I mean, the P's on these things are super low. It's where they're going. Are they trailing? I think GM is ahead of Ford in autonomous. I think that's easily said. But Ford's trying too. Like they got the Ford Blue and the F-150s that can do highway driving on its own. Like so, it's they're trying things there. Is there a play here? Maybe. I mean, Ford's sleepy. Could you get long Ford for a trade? Lean on. Here you go. Set up a trade. Go to Ford. Didn't think we talked Ford here, but 1083, 1083, 1086. Your three lows from the last 3 days. Well, there's a triple bottom. You know what? You want to get long Ford here? Lean on that area. Say, hey, I think there's a play here. Everything seems to be going here right now. We're in this full-on raging bull market, it feels like right now, at least for some stocks. I mean, lean on that level, 1080. Stop out 1075, even the gap down at maybe yourself 1060, 1050. But, saying, hey, maybe this, ignites here too. General Motors is breaking out, so maybe Ford can have a little bit of a trade here. I'm not putting Ford in the long-term portfolio, but as a trade, I don't mind it here.
All right. Well, if we're talking retail stocks and names and whatnot, Tesla's the big dog. At number 2 right now, you have Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, I mean, as expected, strong after the election. I don't know if a lot of people expected this type of strength, though, hitting new all-time highs. I believe 83,000 last night, has since given up a little bit, back down to below 82,000. But I mean, Bitcoin, if you've been a Bitcoin bull, you love to see this move again. New all-time highs, $83,000 a coin. Of course, when Bitcoin moves higher, you get other cryptos moving higher. You have the crypto names in the stock market, whether you're looking at Coinbase, MicroStrategy, etc. All of those names ripping higher as well. So big win here for the crypto bulls.
Michael Saylor is the biggest winner of us all. He went all in on Bitcoin, leverage up to a point where in 2022, late 2022, that they were talking about MicroStrategy could go down. If Bitcoin continues to go, and people were targeting if it got down to like 8,000, that Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy could actually go belly up. He went all in and he said, no way, no how, not happening. And he was on there and was convicted the whole time. I'm going to say, nobody more convicted in themselves, nobody more convicted in Bitcoin probably than Michael Saylor to leverage in as much as he did to take his tech company to a leveraged Bitcoin company was an unbelievable call. And the stock was $13, and it's now $294. So we will say right now, congratulations to Michael Saylor. He went all in, and it paid off.
New all-time high once again. Did bust it through the 280 level. That will now add to support if you come down to that area. Wow. Woo! Wow. Got way up here. Get kind of excited on this one. 307, if you're looking for a target, that's where your 5:30 to 5:45 a.m. traders took it to. So right there, kind of a little bit of a red bar there, but still new all-time high. I could just give you 280 as support. That was a former double top from Thursday and Friday sessions.
This day as much as it looks awesome for Tesla, we're going to continue on the retail stocks. There's a lot of rotation here again today. So it's not like everything going higher here. Certain stocks just not really participating. How many days you come and the Qs are up, $2, and you got Apple red. You got Microsoft barely green, Meta barely green. And I think it's a lot to do with Tesla. When Tesla's up this much and becoming a bigger component in the Qs and the S&P every single day because the market cap's exploding here in the last week. It's like if they're buying that much Tesla, they gotta sell something off. It actually feels like Tesla's gain is Apple's loss here right now. I mean, Apple's holding up, but not participating really as much as some of these other stocks, Joel.
Well, look at the IWM. Finally, been talking about that forever
Yeah,
and
you gotta
ever.
rotate
Finally,
into other stuff here right now. It's not just Apple's world.
no, it's not. And boom, 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 all-time high here in the IWM, 244.46. That was back in November of 2021. So there's a level for you here. Look at it. I'm just looking at that. Look at this IBB here. I know Christian talked about that a little bit last week. Bunching up on the monthlies here, but there's rotation, and right now, I mean, there was a big call on Nvidia too by Piper Sandler. That's trading up 72 cents. They don't care, as much about that. It's just a rotation, a healthy rotation that the market's been looking for.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, IWM hasn't participated nearly to what the S&P and the Qs are, and we're talking about all-time highs now. We're very close. 244.46, the all-time high back in 2021, November. Funny, we're taking ourselves all the way back to November of 2021, and here we are 3 years later. And in that same time period, the S&Ps are up, I don't know, I got a ballpark at 485, 20% probably. Same time period, the Qs are up probably 15 to 20%. IWM has been down, down, down. But you know what? Tom Lee's IWM rally coming around here now. Tom Lee can thank Donald Trump here, I think, for, because he's been talking rah small caps. As Donald Trump ignited small caps.
Some other stocks that we should mention here. Do you guys want to talk some Rocket Labs real quick?
Yeah, and I was in this one for a while. I've sold it actually. I sold it just a couple days ago. The little double top that was there, it's been really running here. It was Zozo Trader. Shout out to Zozo Trader. He was just tweeting with me. I bought Lunar, LUNR. I'm still long the Lunar, and that thing's breaking. I would talk that one in a second there too. And he's like, well, what about Rocket Labs? It's like, I'll take a little flyer in Rocket Labs. I didn't put a lot in it, but I put a little piece in it. That thing went from like $8 to 13 in like a month and a half or 2 months. It's just been climbing up. Again, these retail storied stocks where they're talking about it in the chat rooms, they're talking about it on the Reddit boards, they're talking about it, on wherever the hell else they talk, Discord and all the other places. This is a retail. That's the name of the show. It's a retail-driven rally here right now. And all of these names, these hot storied names, are the things that are really taking off here right now. And RKLB reports Tuesday. So I think you got a little bit of that happening here too, the run up into the report. You know how I talk about that being long stocks ahead of the reports? Well, that's working right now for RKLB.
You also had an analyst upgrade last Friday from Stifel, which raised the price target for Rocket Lab from $9 to $15. So almost like an 100% increase in price target there from Stifel. So that's, of course, going to get those retail traders, the message boards, wherever you're looking at, a little bit more bullish when they see the upgrade come in.
Wide open here. I mean, wow, 1650, Dennis. Did you see that print? Holy moly. 1656, your 4 a.m. traders throwing around a couple 100,000 shares. I don't know if that was accumulating the Sunday night Robinhood session, but traded a couple 100,000 shares there, went to 1656. So you are $2 off the high. Don't see anything here on the monthlies really to give you everything. I could go to the weeklies to see if anything pops up. Nope, nothing on the weekly. So gonna have to do some heavy lifting to get back to that pre-market high. Dennis the Crow popped in here, and we discussed this on the pre-market show. This DXYZ. I don't
Yeah.
know if we have ever covered it on the show. Give us
I think we have. I think we covered it a while ago when it first came out. So if you go out, this came out back in April, and it went crazy. It went from $10 to $100 in 3 days. Destiny Tech 100. And again, I'm just remembering. But what I think this company is invest in private tech companies. So closed end fund, and they invest in a portfolio. Just go to read right from the site. Invest in a portfolio of 100 high growth companies. I believe it's private companies too. Yeah, their number one holding. So here you go. 37% of the portfolio is SpaceX and Axiom Space, Revolution, Epic Games. So they invest in all the companies that eventually a lot of these may go public. So they try to get in there. It's a way to invest in these companies. Now, the one thing to consider, besides the 2.5% management fee, is that, when you're valuing private companies, it's a difficult thing to do. But there was an exercise there where, they were looking at the NAV a year ago on this thing, or when it first came out, like March, April. And it was around $5 or $6. Somebody had it calculated, and it came out at 10. And then it went to 100. So, I mean, you're paying a premium over what those net asset values, what their holdings are kind of valued at. Again, they're not publicly traded companies, so you can't value them perfectly. But you can get an idea for what these things are worth. And people were really paying a premium. Now, this has been sleepy for the last 6 months, down here at $12, $13, $14. So what has ignited this is definitely SpaceX. This is like a huge way to play SpaceX. And, the Tesla move, obviously the Trump move, this is all Trump ignited with Musk being, so in. It's obviously regulatory environment talk for Tesla. It's going to be easier for SpaceX too. So it makes sense that this company that invests in all these private companies would rally into this. The one thing to consider, and I haven't done the exercise here, is go try to figure out what the NAV is. Like, go figure out that, because I believe it's much lower. So you're paying a huge premium. Net asset value is what an NAV is. So it's like values what the companies are worth. And then obviously it's trading like a stock. So, it's going to deviate from that. Like Warren Buffett always trades above the NAV because it's all Warren and Berkshire Hathaway. So Berkshire Hathaway usually trades with a premium over his NAV. The premium over the NAV, if anybody knows it, you can put it in the chat. But the premium over on the NAV here is probably really substantial, I'd imagine.
And the last time Dennis gave this talk, well, you've done it frequently, there was a stat. Dennis, you know exactly where
Yeah,
I'm
I know where you're
going.
going.
When
You're
a
going
stock,
Icon.
when a stock deviates from its NAV, bad things can happen. And I can actually remember this. We were doing the show back in our early stages here.
Guys, look at
And
the bottom right chart. Maybe make it bigger just
all
so
right, I
everybody
will.
can see that.
Right here.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
149.77. All-time high. All-time high in Icon Enterprises, where it
That
was.
was when Icon was doing everything right. He'd touch a stock and it'd rally 10%. Now he's doing nothing right, and that's why the stock is down, his company down here at $12. But yeah, you have to be careful chasing these, huge moves when they start going away. The NAV, somebody had calculated back then, was around 45 for IEP. It was trading 145, so basically triple the NAV. If you have a fund that's got holdings, and all of a sudden, because it's trading, and the fund itself is trading in the markets triple what the holdings values are, it's usually not a good time to buy. So again, I haven't calculated. Maybe I'll do that today. I can try to go figure it out. It's not the easiest thing to figure out, valuing private companies here, but I would imagine that this DXYZ, to Joel's point, is probably trading substantially above the NAV on these companies.
I mean, how could you even do it without knowing the value of SpaceX?
You can try to figure it out. I mean, because there's private companies, there's private exchanges that give you a value of SpaceX. There's ways in this day and age to try to figure it out. It takes some work though, and I'm sure there's some people have already done it.
I mean, that might be an interesting. Well, I'm sure the bots have already done it, but that'd be interesting. Go ahead, AB.
Can you do it with Berkshire, like the private holdings of Berkshire? See how much
you can't eat, AB. That's exactly it. Like Berkshire, you can estimate. So everybody can say, okay, can you figure out exactly what his public holdings are worth, the stocks that are trading? But half of the Berkshire Hathaway is private. So what's Geico worth? You can look to comparables to try to figure out what Geico's worth. He's got a pile of other private companies in there. What are all those worth? So you can never get it perfect, but you can guesstimate it, like, okay, well, if, this is worth, you got certain insurance companies are worth this, Geico's probably worth this, and you can just do the exercise and go all the way down. You do similar things with this as well. SpaceX is a difficult thing to figure out, what it's worth. But I know somebody had calculated this back in April, and the DXYZ, and again, I don't know if it's correct or not, but they were calculating the NAV to be around $4 or $5. So the question is, has it gone up to 10, 20, 30 at this point in time? I'm sure it's gone up. SpaceX's, value is definitely would have gone up in the private market since Trump has become president with Musk's relationship with Trump. Has it gone up 2, 3, 4 times? Probably not. So again, when retail grabs it though, and you have a retail frenzy, which is what we have right now, just flat out shorting these things because it's trading above NAV is a recipe for disaster.
Is there a borrow on it? Is it hard to get?
Probably hard to do. Let me see. I'll go see if I
Yeah.
can get a borrow right now. I'll go to IB, just going in there and just seeing if I can even get a borrow. I doubt it, Joel.
Yeah,
It's a good question though. Sell
I wonder.
140. I got to throw it away from the market because I don't want to get executed. No, I got to borrow. It is 93.99% to borrow it. So you can. And what that means is if you're borrowing it, you get charged 94% a year. So if you were to hold this short for a year, it better go to zero, or otherwise you lose money. So you got to watch. When you're borrowing stocks at 94%, you need to make money very quickly because 94% a year adds up fast. So that changes. The borrowing rates always change. DJT's borrowing rates down to 22%. At one point in time, it was like 700%. So, it's not that bad, just, cherry picking a couple of them. CGC is another one that, people always try to locate. It's 12%. Your typical borrow rates are like 0.25%, like 0.25% is your typical borrow rate a year.
Liquid stock. Yeah.
So it's almost nothing. So when you get
And this is
91%, it's a consideration for sure.
This is where Tim Quast would say that where the share price of DXYX is about the supply and demand for the shares.
It is,
not, of course, the actual underlying holdings.
It is.
But we're talking about this, frenzy going on right now. Not everything is going up, though. We had one earnings stock today, and fit in. It is a Monday, of course. So it was Monday.com, which reported earnings. The stock is down 13%. The company reported an EPS of 85 cents that beat the 63-cent estimate. Sales came in at $251 million. That beat the $246 million estimate. So you did have a double beat there on EPS and sales, but then revenue guidance came in. Actually, Q4 revenue guidance was good. So let's see what in this report was not good.
Always a way to find something that's good or not good. The guidance is disappointing is what they're saying. So just a little bit of the guidance is a little bit light. And again, we know guidance trumps all. So at least that's what they're saying on the message boards here, is that the guidance fell short here. For a third quarter insurance maker, 33 cents. So the earnings itself were not fantastic, and the guidance is a little bit light. So that's what they do. When your stock is at an all-time high, which Monday.com, no, it wasn't actually. Sorry, hit myself. 2021, we're back. 2021, the stock at $450. You got to go back to 2021. That was a real bubble, folks. I mean, people talk about, we're in such a bubble. We're in such a bubble. The bubble was 2021. The bubble burst. Stocks came down. A lot of them came down 60, 70, 80%, 2022, 2023, and they've been on the comeback trail. Here's Monday.com. Still basically only half to what it was when it was up at $450 a share. So back in 2021, that was a bubble. So the question now here is a stock that was trading a new 52-week high at $324. Sells off, weaker guidance. I usually like to wait a day or two, let it fizzle out, because we know in this market, not all stocks have been rising. It's been kind of mixed. Some stocks rising, some stocks not rising. So I probably would be somewhat cautious, just, blindly buying the dip here. But if you get an area where you think you got support, we'll throw it to our technical technician here, Joel Alcona. Maybe he's got a level for us.
Yeah, on the first dip here, 274. First thing you look for with the 274, is there anything on the dailies? And you do have some confluence there. 274.06 was your low on October 8th. So first things first, are they going to take it down to the pre-market low? Is it going to be defended? Now, the fact that it's $9 off that low, people are thinking, no, I don't know. I might have missed buying this in the 270s. But see what the immediate, there's going to be a flush off the open, hit some buy stops. Maybe you get down to that level. If you're looking for more than the pre-market low, I think you're being a little bit greedy on the downside, though. In this market, you can't say any extreme is too extreme. You had a low just back in October at 271.66, and you are trading at your rebound high here at 83, or just off the rebound high, 283.99. Dennis, what moves with Monday.com?
I don't know, Tuesday.com.
Okay.
I have no idea, to be honest. This is not a stock that I widely
Okay.
trade. Some stocks, maybe the chat knows. I don't really know much about Monday.com, to be honest. It's a stock that I've traded a few times ever. You know where I sit, Joel. I sit in mega caps. I sit in the big names. I know some of the little names. I know some of the storied stocks
Yeah.
here. What is Monday? Let's just jump in, like exact business. I'm assuming
I
it's,
think
we're looking here. Works. Monday.com is an open platform where anyone can create tools they need to run every aspect of their work. Okay, well, I don't know what the hell that means. So
I feel like a Slack or
I'm wondering.
at least a team, maybe.
I think so. I think you're talking about those kind of work management company, Salesforce, work management projects. I think you're right with Slack. No, now Slack doesn't trade anymore.
Well, it's CRM. It's Salesforce owns it, but that's
but
up
it's Salesforce didn't even seem to care this morning. It's trading up 2%. So
yeah, neither
this
does
Monday's on
Teams.
its own world. Couple
Yeah,
other
Trello,
peers.
which Trello, I believe, is owned under the team banner as well, at Lycian. Asana. That's a great one, Joel.
Yeah, that's a good comp, I think. Asana's a good comp. It's barely trading up here right now. So that's one to think about there. Is that CEO still buying all those shares of Asana? Remember, he just couldn't stop himself. He just keeps buying relentlessly there. Is he still doing that?
Dustin Moskovitz. He's got the Facebook money runs deep for Moskovitz. It seems like he's got enough. He was buying like billions of dollars of shares. I was like, I gotta buy this stock. The CEO is buying so much, and then it just kept moving lower and lower. It's the last time I ever buy anything specifically just because the only reason the CEO is buying shares.
CRM sneaking back up to a new all-time high here. Look at that, trading up 587. Haven't talked about Mark Benioff lately, but CRM fully participating.
Come back.
Yeah.
I mean, and the big mega cap names, and we'll put Salesforce in there too. It's not quite obviously to the Apples and the Microsofts, but it's just that tier down. I mean, you get these 50% sell-offs that you got in 2022. It's not a bad idea to just blindly throw, a few of these in your long-term portfolio and not look at them ever again. Where's Workday? Workday's trying to. Workday always moves with CRM too. I mean, I'd keep an eye on these stocks today. I mean, this Monday.com looks like there's a little bit of overlap with some of these other companies. It's having a pretty bad morning. So obviously the pure sympathy trade is not happening in the pre-market. Maybe it doesn't happen at all, but you just wouldn't want the rug pulled out on you where they all of a sudden realize, hey, wait a second, Monday's doing bad. Maybe we got to pull the rug on some of these other companies.
All right, well, let's go ahead and bring our man Christian Frommertz on. Of course, Christian has been hanging out with us this past week while Joel was out for a couple of days. We really appreciate Frommertz sticking with us and being flexible as we pursue this new show format. So without further ado, let's go ahead and give Christian a little intro, and when we come back, we'll see what Christian's been watching and catch up with him. All right, you guys know him. You guys love him. Tribeca Trade Group's Christian Frommertz. How you doing, Christian?
Hey guys, what's going on? What do you guys have, a case of the Mondays? What's with that?
He was ready for that one.
That's too easy. That's a layup.
That was good. Monday 3 of the softball on that one there. I liked it though.
I will say happy Veterans Day too to all the veterans out there too. And we've got the bond market closed, of course. Bond futures are open, but just wanted to say that that's important this morning. But yeah, that's an interesting move in Monday.com. And just to kind of what you guys were talking about this morning is that, obviously Tesla's up big. All the cryptos are up huge this morning. That's, so you've got those trades still running very nicely, but you've also got a lot of downside moves today. I'm looking at what the semis are doing this morning, and, I know that you guys have, we've kind of hit upon the Trump trade because you have to talk about the momentum that's there. But also I would say, I would say the semis are kind of they're a little bit of a Biden trade because I think some of that stimulus that's happening is going to be possibly ending. We don't know if they're going to be extending all those deals and that they have with the companies. So I see a lot of those names down. Also, if you look at the semi chart versus and I know that Monday is a software company and that's down here.
And Christian, you could go ahead and pop up your charts if you'd like. We get.
Oh, sure. Okay, let's see.
Yeah. Let's do that.
I also,
background.
I hope that someone in Trump's administration will be like, hey, this money we're spending on chips is actually a good thing. I mean, wouldn't you think that would be a type of like America first policy, would be to say, hey, we don't want to be reliant on Taiwan and China and all these other countries for semis. We should be producing them domestically. Like, I hope that some of that stuff from the CHIPS Act, et cetera, stays, but I think there is a lot of uncertainty about that right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why that's leading to the little bit of underperformance that you're getting with the semis right now. And I think there's more news out on Taiwan semi this morning.
Yeah.
So we're starting, as we get like a couple days into this, or a few days into this after post-election, you're starting to see some things separate a little bit versus that initial bump up that basically everything got on Wednesday. I also find what's interesting, what's leading this morning is IWM. So there's a couple notes out too about how this less financial regulation will be good for financials, which again, those saw the bump up pretty decently. Here's we'll just bring up KRE for the regional bank ETF, but that had this initial jump up and is kind of digesting here a little bit. So that to me was just really interesting how the week unfolded, where, okay, boom, big bump up in things like the small caps and the KRE, but they just settled in Thursday and Friday. They did not continue to go. Whereas something like software, continue to kind of move higher. So I think you got a couple things really going on here that are interesting. Is that will the small caps continue to move up? Also, I think the other thing which has been awesome is some of these gap ups on earnings names like Upstart, and I mean, these things are going up 30, 40,
Oh my gosh, that Upstart move. So you had the Upstart trade here. You had the 60-70. So I guess you were just taken out at the highs on that. You probably got the whole thing, right, Christian?
I was long both almost on the option. I always sell a little bit on the open, and then I sold the rest about an hour past. But I also own stock. I mean, and I trimmed into the earnings report because I had a nice winner. But some of these things, to me, it's almost worth a little bit of taking a shot on what these names are going to do with just owning just a little bit of stock. And again, it helps to be up in it, but I mean, it's ridiculous. Another one that I'm just going to bring a couple tickers in here, but another one too, that's, you just kind of have to watch what the biggest movers are for the day. This is InnoData, and I know very little bit about this company, but it had good earnings and they're just running. I mean, it's very odd to see. I mean, this thing was up 75% on Friday.
That's unbelievable.
So you got to be kidding me. And with some of the moves, and like I said, this is a smaller name. Just as you were going through with the Monday report, it's tough to understand, like on the fly, what some of these companies actually do. Other than like you get a couple, like on some of the summaries that I read, it's a couple sentences. So that's really not enough to understand, like, oh, geez, do I want to be really positioning this thing in the long term? But for like a day trade, you just kind of sit in this, have a level to trade against, and then kind of go from there.
I mean, that's where we're almost at here, is like these stocks, the individual moves are incredible. And it's like, if you're on the right side, you almost got to just let her run a little bit more than you think it can run. And when you're on the wrong side, you've got to cut the loser as fast as you can, because the moves are vicious in both directions here. It hasn't just been this market where they're buying stuff relentlessly no matter what. It is selective, Christian. It is certain stocks, and it is certain earnings reports where we can go back to last week, and there was some earnings reports from some stocks where they absolutely beat some stocks up on bad earnings. Monday.com is the point today, down 46 points, down 14%, is a big move to the downside. Like, how do you control, how do you manage risk in this market? Let's just say, we can all talk about, how you, and maybe you can manage winners too, but how do you manage the risk? Like you get on the wrong side of something, what do you do here?
Oh, well, if on the wrong side, I mean, I think that there's so many names that are have the opportunity to kind of do this, that I just kind of take some of the names that are either not working, or just kind of stalling out at resistance. I'm just kind of taking them off right now. I'm trying to move, as considering how fast this market has moved the last couple days. Like, I try to adapt my trading to what the market is giving us, and I just don't like, if I don't have high conviction in a name and it's not really working out, I will just kind of move on. And I think it's, when you have the momentum like we're seeing the last couple days, like, you just have to free up space in your mind too, in terms of what you can manage, because I know I can't manage like 6 or 7 of these things. I can
Yeah.
manage, especially how they're moving. Like, you really got to keep close tabs on some of these names, because they can move down pretty quickly too. I mean, up momentum on the upside, you could also see that momentum on the downside too. So, and I think this upstart is kind of coming in a little bit, and I'm watching this because I'm still long this. So, I've got to kind of watch the downside. But yeah, you've got to free up your mental capacity and say, okay, I've got 3 or 4 of these runners, because I bought Tesla last week. We talked about that in the beginning of the week. And I said, hey, I've got to, once it broke the 290 level, I'm like, hey, I got to get involved in this thing. There's no way I can just kind of sit out and say, hey, this thing continues to run. So you've got to find a level to trade against. And for me, it was 290. And I've been trimming, in my trading account, because it's different. Like, you've done a great job holding in your long term, and you've been
Yeah.
amazing not even trimming it. But and you're in my trading account, where I'm faster. I've got to participate in some of these things. Like,
Yeah.
MSTR was another one that I got. It's just too much momentum to not get involved. And I don't have a big position in this thing left, and I'm kind of like, I'm a little bit upset, because it's up again huge. All the cryptos are up again.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
But yeah, from a trading standpoint, you could only manage so many of these things. You can't manage 15 of these things. So that's how I'm kind of dealing with it, to answer your question. So, and you go from
What
there.
what else is on your radar here? Because I was saying, this is the market. I was actually saying to AB and Joel in the pre-market there, and Joel's high in the background. He can come on anytime too, maybe with this stuff. But we were just talking in the pre-market there, and I'm looking, at this market and saying, well, what hasn't gone yet? Like, we're seeing what is clearly going is like retail driven storied stocks, where you've got, obviously, Tesla's a huge story here now. We can talk even Rocket Labs is a storied stock here. GameStop's perking up here, storied stock. What stocks haven't gone? Do you have any on your list here, Christian? Like, I was looking at Lunar, and I was going to talk about this one that hasn't gone yet. And I'm long Lunar. I've been long it for a while here. I was long it because, when I was doing the valuation, looking at it, I think there's a story here, coming for this stock. But then I comes in, and I was actually going to talk about it today, and it's already up 5% before I even mention it. So
Yeah.
I'm like, these stocks, it's like they just keep going here. Are there any like potential stories? Chat, this is a question for you guys here too. What hasn't gone here yet?
Well, I think last week was really good timing, because a lot of those names that were the high momentum names, a lot of those names reported last week. So I think that you want to kind of keep an eye on who's reporting this week. I think not that I really want to get involved in GameStop, but it is a momentum name that is reporting earnings. Let's see if I have my list up of names somewhere in here. I don't, but I think watching the names that are going to be reporting this week. Let's see.
There's Shopify, which is going to be a huge one. Spotify as well. These are two retail darlings here. The question is, we know what usually happens is, like, when you get a couple like Shopify spots, one will go and one won't. It's usually like they don't take them both. But, the one that goes, we saw what happened with Upstart and Affirm, for instance. Upstart went like crazy. Affirm didn't go, and obviously went down. Then they did buy the dip to a certain extent here. But, I mean, is there a play to just try them both?
I think, just as I was talking about last week with like using call spreads, because that minimizes the implied volatility move, because it's very, very
Too
difficult
expensive
to
options.
play options for earnings. I mean, you need a huge move, and the majority of times you don't really see that. But so I like call spreads, and I actually do like Shopify because it fits like right in the wheelhouse of names that are going up. And if you let's look at the weekly chart just to kind of see the overall trend here. But
Sure.
you're looking at something that's kind of like in a base, and I said this last week, it has the potential, it has potential to kind of break out here, and like that's something that I'll want to participate in. And again, we know that earnings are binary, right? They're some are going to they're either going to win or they're going to lose on earnings, so you kind of have to be careful with that. But absolutely, I think Shopify is kind of top of my list of names to watch. The other you mentioned, like, what else am I watching this week? I'm watching those financials because, like I said, they gapped up on Wednesday and then they kind of stalled a little bit. So again, it's tough to to go after some of these names that have done this. But here's JP Morgan, right? Which is kind of just look at this big candle, and it's just kind of sitting here. And typically, what I like to do is wait for the 5 period moving average to catch up. But I have a hard time believing that these things are going to come right back down, considering the environment of possibly less regulation. So I'm also long. I got long Morgan Stanley. This was a bit of a lucky type trade because I did go long on this the day before. So now it's just trade management, and it's whether or not I want to add back. So I don't think that gap will be filled quite yet, but I think some of these financials, I think, is the way to kind of play in terms of as they kind of come in a little bit.
Christian,
I mean,
I know you've been stalking the biotechs as
Mhm.
of late, and Dennis, someone gave a shout out to you for the old uh,
XBI
uh,
weekend trade working
yeah,
again.
the XBI weekend trade. Just talk. I mean, it looks like the XBI. Man, I mean, these things are just bunching up here on the monthlies. This looks like a Christian Farmher's chart to me because it's at its high and you buy it and it goes higher. What are you looking for breakouts on IBB and XBI?
Yep. Just a little bit further here in XBI. So yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think that this is setting up. Biotech has been such a difficult trade, but I also think with the possibility that they're going to stop blocking every deal that gets announced, right? We've seen that where just the M&A deals have been kind of ridiculous, where a name is being last year I would say this year, earlier this year, that when names are getting announced for a deal, we've seen some of them completely fall apart. So I think this gives some runway to, hey, some of these companies may say, hey, rather than like waste legal fees with trying to fight a deal that is the Department of Justice could be blocking, maybe they're starting to, some of the big healthcare companies are going to start to look at M&A. And I do like this group. And I think if it just pushes a little bit higher here, 104, and I did get long XBI via calls last week. So I'm still long some of those. I went out a couple months. So something that I feel like where I want to play upside, but I'm a little bit, I'm not sure if it's going to break the range yet. I sometimes will put on some calls just as to speculate, which that's what options are for, as well as hedging. But I'm long the January 103 calls. So another relationship too that I'm watching, speaking of that, which I think is just kind of interesting, is when you overlay the XBI, which is the equally weighted biotech ETF, with healthcare. And this is so again, like, look at the trend here that for a while healthcare was outperforming biotech, but now you're starting to see the base, and you're starting to see maybe like a base breakout here, that biotech is starting to outperform the bigger, larger healthcare companies, XLV. So that's another relationship that I'm watching too.
I mean, XBI, again, we gave this, last week when we were talking, obviously Christian was on with us all last week, and, it's a rates play. And I mean, rates are going down. Long-term rates may have gone up a little bit here, but, the Fed is still lowering. If you just look at the Fed cycle and you just blindly say when the Fed is, raising rates, it's not great for biotech. When the Fed starts lowering rates, it is. So if you would have started and just blindly said, the Fed has dictated back at the middle of 2021, they started talking about, hey, we're going to start, raising rates here to beat inflation. That was your sell signal. And now, the opposite is here, where inflation, as for the most part, is in control. Even at least the CPI is. You just blindly say if the Fed's going to be on our side, it's probably good. And then you go into, Trump administration, probably good for biotech as well. So there's lots of reasons to think that biotech, and I'm long XBI as well. Lots of reasons to think that this party could just be getting started.
Yeah, and one other thing to watch too, which I thought was fascinating last week, was TLT came back. Remember, we saw that big move on Wednesday where rates also on the, and again, when you look at TLT, you have to keep in mind that this is the long end of the curve, right? This is longer treasuries, but yields really cranked up, and that was like a little bit concerning to me, because when that happens, yeah, it's harder to get some of those trades to work, such as biotech. But look at it come back at the end of the week, and so again, this is one of the bigger surprises to me, that was TLT was actually up last week. So it completely took out, and I think it was like, let's see if I have the data here, but I think on Wednesday, TLT was down. Let's see. TLT was down on Wednesday, down 2.7%, which to me was a ginormous move, but it clawed back. And so this is a must watch for me too over the next, going into the end of the year, is whether bond prices might actually rally a little bit.
I want to go to some breaking news here just a few minutes ago, and it's from AbbVie here. ABBV. AB is, I don't know, AB is high in the background, so I can just give the news here. ABBV phase 2 results for emraclidine and schizophrenia did not meet primary endpoint. Joel, go to the 5-minute here so we can just see the recent move here. When you go out this far, we can't tell. It's pre-market prep. We're going to starting with the pre-market chart.
Yeah, man. There
so you can
go.
see right here,
Woo!
the big move down here, the big flush in ABBV. What time did this break?
Boy, this had to break right around. This was on the 840 bracket. We're at 851. You went to 171.36. So this takes you right down to this area. Let's see. Oh, wow. Yeah, a couple. I like that area if it comes back down again. 170. You have 4 lows at the 172 area. But then again, look at Monday. That's still continuing to leak towards its pre-market low. So at least with the ABBV, I did just mention that
Bristol
current
Myers.
low. Yeah.
It's funny how
so
this
Bristol.
happens. Yeah, when one name misses a drug study, and look at Bristol Myers up, which
I know.
I don't think they did anything. I think it's
no. This moved right on. They have a competing drug, so this moved right on. It's like this. I'm at this spot in my long-term calls where, like in my long-term portfolio, where like sometimes you just get in this zone where you're doing nothing wrong. Like I've got a huge position in Bristol Myers, and no position in AbbVie. I used to have a position in AbbVie. I mean, I've had Tesla. My Lunar is starting to go. The VKTX went up and then obviously came back down, but it's starting to come back around a little bit here. So that one wasn't great. But I've just had my long-term portfolio, just a lot of my long-term stocks just really going well. And here's a sleepy one. Bristol Myers, I bought this stock. I bought this stock at $41 back, when this evaluation was trading 5 times earnings. And I just this is getting to a point of ridiculousness. It's back here at 60 here this morning. So this has been an incredible move. For a stock that's got a really low beta, it's an incredible move here this morning here too. BMY, up 7 points here, huge move. I wonder if I'm going to look at it today and analyze it. Obviously, it's been a big move. This is a big move for Bristol Myers.
I don't think this has ever moved $7.
It has, but this is a huge move here this morning. So I may lighten up into this. I haven't sold any shares of Bristol Myers. I've had it for about 6 months, but I'm up 50% in this thing in the pharmaceutical.
In Bristol Myers, that's unbelievable. You spiked.
That's a huge move.
Yeah, you spiked to 61.50. Oh man. I mean, can this thing? I mean, it's traded 1 million shares, so just keep an eye to see where this one opens to. $61. I mean, you got to sweep a lot of paper up here, and I know it's traded 1 million shares on a daily. It trades up. It trades like 10 million. So they'll fulfill the book. But this is, I mean, if you talk about key openings in a stock, I keep an eye on the BMY. I want to, Christian, you here, Dennis, you here. I want you both. Address a question here. One of you can do it or not. We always talk about the option change and the expected move of a stock. We got some. I think it was Eric asked about a non-earnings day when you're looking for an expected move on a stock. If you get a move. So do you use that at all? I mean, I know what I like to use, and I mentioned it before, is like the 9-day average trading range. But on a non-earnings day, do you guys, when a stock's having a big move, looking for the following day or whatever, do you go to the options chain here to try and figure out a pin or a potential support or resistance?
I don't think I totally understand the question, and I don't know if Christian does either here. So
Okay,
you
can
got
you
it?
use?
I
Can
think the
you?
average true range is a great way to kind of look at when there's no events. Then I will generate, and if it's quiet, like obviously we've had a big catalyst over the last week, so average true range isn't going to really help you that much when you've got outsized moves like we've had this week because of the catalyst of an election but I think like normally when you're trading and there's not much going on, I will look at, okay, and that kind of helps me if there's no catalyst and you're looking at an average true range where a stock moves $2 and you're looking at it and saying, hey, do I want to, go after a name for a day trade for the day? And the stock's like up $1.70, then for example, then I say, okay, well, the stock normally moves $2. There's only like 30 cents that it could move more. So I generally will look at that. I will look at more of the option chain for when, like, so for example, we have CPI this week, and I will look to say, okay, what is the S&P pricing in? And sometimes that kind of gives you a feel if the market makers are thinking that there's going to be that data is really going to overwhelm the market a little bit. Or, sometimes I'll tend to look and say, hey, if they're not pricing in anything for the CPI report, maybe I want to put on a trade, like an option trade, to say, hey, maybe they're pricing it incorrectly. But understanding, I think really what you using that or looking at the option market for when you've got an event and trying to figure out like what the volatility is that the market makers are pricing in is important.
It's a great
Okay.
answer, Christian.
Yep. Great answer to that. Christian, we're leaking a little bit
We want to
here.
leave Christian on here because he's friends. We're going to have Brian Shannon on here in a few minutes, and Christian's friends here too, so Christian wanted to stay on with them as well. We are leaking a little bit here on the S&Ps. Again, lots of separation in this market today. To Christian's fantastic point, the semis are weak here this morning. Oil is weak. Consumer staples are somewhat weak. Banks are strong. It's Apple's down. It's a mixed market, man. Like you can see, we're strong in a lot of sectors here, but it's definitely not a rising tide lifts all ships here today.
Well, Dennis, have we talked about Humana yet? I don't know if you guys touched on it while I was
gone. Talk about.
Cigna and Humana, I think Cigna said that they're not going to go after them in terms of merger. So it's like the two other pharma stocks that we looked at, one up, one down. You got Cigna up huge, and on the announcement that they're not going after them. And
is that the world we're in here right now? When they're buying something, they're always selling something else just to keep the S&P and all the ETFs happy. I mean, it seems like the way. So obviously there was rumors for a long time. CI going to buy Humana. Now they're not pursuing the deal. So Humana, obviously, premium coming out of that. Humana has been an epic disaster. CI, I believe, also gave some guidance reaffirming, I believe. So it's trading up on that too. It's definitely been the better performer of the two, where CI is not that really far from all-time highs, maybe off 10%, where you got Humana cut in half. So, big difference in those two stocks, obviously. UNH always seems to be the best of breed in that stock. If you're just talking the healthcare providers, right at all-time highs, UNH. So it's always been best of breed.
And you've also got that go. Sorry, can I just say one more thing? And
yeah.
But take a look at so you've got winners and losers, and I think that's also playing out obviously with this big move in cryptos. I mean, that's a huge story this morning. And if you look at, so here we go. Here's Bitcoin, which now is breaking out to all-time highs. You're out of this range. This is a really nice looking chart. I think we talked about this last week, and I was saying how much I like this chart. But you look at the other side of this, and gold is actually, I was wondering if gold was going to hold in there last week, and it's starting to kind of break down a little bit here, and it's losing its 50-day moving average. So just like within stocks, where you've got some winners and losers, you've also got that going on in some of the commodity plays or outside of equities, I would say. So interesting move going on in gold this morning.
All right. Well, sometimes here, if we're getting deep into options, we have guests that talk about the different Greeks, the theta, the delta, the gamma, the vega, the rho. We got the alpha trends hanging out with us backstage. Mr. Brian Shannon, you guys know him, a FinTwit legend again at Alpha Trends. Without further ado, let's give Mr. Brian Shannon our special pre-market prep guest welcome. All right, Brian Shannon, welcome back to Benzinga, not Benzinga, to pre-market prep.
Oh my gosh, watch what you say.
Good morning, gentlemen. And
how are you doing today, Brian?
And like I said, Dennis, congrats to all you guys to the pivot quickly away from that. Sounds like things were up in the air for a moment, but you landed nicely.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
So Brian, since last time we've had you on and caught up, a lot has happened. We went through a presidential election. Bitcoin's at all-time highs. With all this, changing in the landscape, what's been kind of like top of mind for you?
Fortunately for me, as a self-proclaimed swing trader, and that's really the time frame that I gravitate towards, where my typical longer holding times are 2 to 3 weeks. Absolutely nothing has changed other than we've gotten these catalysts out of the way, and now we have a clear trend that's revealed, and all the uncertainty is gone. So it's back to picking stocks, trading stocks, and letting them do their thing.
So let's jump into what do you like right now? Let's just jump into some charts. What are you looking at here? Obviously, there's been some separation happening where you've had some stocks going up, some stocks going down. But, more stocks going up than down when we're at all-time highs here. What do you like, Brian?
Well, I have a position in Generac, which has been a long-term favorite of mine, but I really haven't traded it well. I got involved in there at 170 and a quarter. So that one's holding really nicely for me. And if you back that out to a weekly time frame, you can see it's still got some room to run in there as well. This is they do the generators for home and that, and power grid, and with all the hurricanes and that sort of thing. It's a story that makes sense. Jumped into Tesla last week at 288. So that
awesome.
Was actually on Wednesday. After it gapped up, it pulled back and touched the 2-day volume weighted average price, reclaimed it 1 day, and that's my go-to signal for that type of move if I'm not involved right away. Butterfly BFLY is one that I own at $2. They just reported earnings recently, and then I've got some Soundhound SOUN. And a little bit, and actually, Dennis, I've got a little bit of the lunar warrants.
You went to the LUNRW. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Why the warrants? Just because they're lower price? Why the warrants over the stock?
Just because I really didn't know much about the company, and I figured, so I had calls in SOUN as well as the stock, and there's actually warrants in Soundhound as well, SOUNW. But I really don't know why I did the warrants. I was looking at it thinking, I've got enough of this speculative little stuff that I think, if the stock dropped 10%, for some reason I convinced myself the warrants would only drop about 5% or so.
Sometimes better to play. You can leverage them up a little bit too. Obviously, LUNR is $10. LUNRW is $3.23. So your return, it's almost like options, those warrants. So,
it really is. Yeah. It's like a warrant, an option, a long-term option.
Yeah, so that's interesting too, and maybe that's another way to play it. So I'm still long the lunar. How do you so you get into stuff? Let's just go back to your Tesla trade. Are you still in Tesla?
I have a third of it left.
How do you? So this is something, and I've been trading professionally for 25 years. I've always been pretty good on the entry. I always get out too early.
You can't steal my question.
Oh, I stole Joel's question. Joel's mad at me.
I'm just getting ready. I'm just getting ready here, Brian. The entries and the exits you can find too. I mean, where are we in silly town here? I mean, when there's no resistance, there's no. I mean, it's easy to do your levels now, right? So what do you do? Like if you're drilling down, I heard you say you have a third of it. Do you just kind of like to trail out of it and say? Because I always talk to Dennis about it. I say, Dennis, why don't you just use the highest low? Or
Mhm.
use the close, just trail it out. And he's like, no, no, it's going up. I got to, do it. How do you approach? I mean, because we are in silly town here in a lot of stocks.
So for Tesla, and I haven't done the best job selling, truthfully. It rallied very quickly the first day, and then we had the Federal Reserve, so I wanted to be out of a third of it ahead of the event. So I sold that first third for a gain of $9. So that was at $297, and here we are, what, 340. So not the best sell, but it was something I would do again because it was based on my reason was to reduce the exposure ahead of an event where there was risk, and I would do that all day long. My second third, I sold the breakout past 300 and actually sold it at 302, which again feels kind of silly when it does this, but we don't know they're going to do this, right?
No.
So I like to sell a first third, on the first day if I get a good movement. I like to sell a little bit on a breakout. And then I do exactly what you said, Joel, which is I'll look at a chart like this 1 hour and I'll say, what's the definition of trend here? Higher highs and higher lows. So my stop will go underneath the most recent relevant higher low, which right now, I think with this gap up today, I would say that, the afternoon low from Friday at 316 and change is the low that I will raise my stop up under at this point.
Let's talk that SoundHound for a minute. It's a stock we haven't talked about it for a while on this show. It's been sleepy and really doing nothing for a long time here, but it is perking up here now as well. Big move here this morning. It goes from 720 to 760. Is this something like you lighten up into when these, when they start going, parabolic, or they start blasting off from 6 to 7 and it feels like, or 7 to 8 in, a day or two? Like, again, how are you playing this one?
I've held this one a little bit better, actually, because I look at the history of this stock and the way that it's moved in the past. And when the AI theme gets going a little bit like this, and we have a little bit of speculative fervor in the market like we do right now, this is the type of stock that really gets going. I actually have some. I consider it as a little cousin. It's just another little AI stock, which is BBAI.
Oh, yeah.
And that's finally just starting to get going here a little bit in the pre-market today. But that's got a nice looking chart that I think can, look at it on that last run, how it basically tripled, right? So it's got the potential. I look at the personality of the stock and say, what is it capable of? And I'll piece some out because it's just a risky stock. Look how quickly it comes back in as well. You can't forget about that part. So, with these little ones, you get great percentage moves. You don't have to put a full, risk unit into them. And then you get outsized gains is the way I see it, based on the percentage moves that they make.
These things are all like little hot potatoes, and you got to really time them
are.
well, because a lot of these, when you look at the companies, they're not core fundamentals behind. Like when I'm buying a stock like Bristol Myers at 41, I'm just feeling like there's value there. It's a different type of, investment,
Totally.
different type of trade. When you're
Yeah.
buying these little like SoundHounds and BBAIs, it's all about timing, 100% trading and 100% timing. And, when they start perking up, that's when I get interested here too. So do you have like a scanner, like where, or are you just going through charts continuously and then just finding them? Like, how are you finding, this charts that, you're like?
Like you just said, I'm just going through charts continuously. I think that, scanners, I think scanners are a great way to go if you don't have the patience or the skill set to go through a lot of charts manually. It's something I've been doing forever, 30 plus years. So for me, it's kind of fun too. I like the treasure hunt aspect of it. I like listening to the market and the market telling me, hey, these little stocks are starting to percolate. And then I start to try to figure out, well, how does that make sense in the bigger picture? Like if I see, certain biotech stocks percolating before the index goes, it tells me we have a place that could potentially lead the XBI. So you get a little bit of a head start, I think, and just a better feel for what's working in the market. And these are just names that, so the bigger question, I guess, Dennis, is how do the names get onto the list that I look at?
Yeah.
And, so I'll look when I'm bored, I'll sometimes look at percentage movers and I'll see something like BBAI and I'll go, AI. Well, I bet you that's being bid up just because AI hype. Then I'll look to see what they do. And sure enough, and if there's a little bit of a company there, then I'll put it on my list. I've been scanning for earnings surprises. So I'm not a fundamental person really, but I kind of view fundamentals exactly the way I view technicals, is that my opinion of the fundamentals don't matter, but if I know that there's a group of investors out there who cares that the company reported earnings that were up and the stock gapped up on that, and they were, up 20%, revenues were up 20% and earnings were up 112%. It tells me those people are going to stay interested in that and support the stock for a bid. If it supports it on the chart as well, then I'm interested. So it's always more the psychology of the chart, the psychology of the fundamentals, than the straight up, hey, there's a cup and handle, therefore I need to buy the breakout of it.
Hey, Brian, I have a question for you. And by the way,
Hey, Christian.
great to see you.
Likewise.
Do you have, so you mentioned psychology. I also, think about investor psychology a lot. And when you're trading some of these names, I mean, some of these names, and this is, by the way, I really like the base that you've got here, but do you have a hard time, or is it difficult for you, or is it easy for you when you've kind of left a group of stocks like, higher momentum, lower price stocks that all of a sudden are now catching this momentum, where you've kind of had maybe some preconceived ideas to say, hey, this is not a great stock or hasn't been a great stock? How quickly or how do you adapt to all of a sudden a new set of names or groups that are catching this momentum?
It's more about a quick exit than anything. I just inherently don't trust a stock like BBAI. So I give it a very short leash. And this is the type of stock that, I'll build I'll use a starter position. You were talking about options in the XBI. I call it a just in case. Just in case it does go, I still want to be involved. So it's a just in case position. But as they start to move, then I get a little bit more confidence. But I just don't have blind confidence. I have confidence that there's going to be enough other lunatic traders chasing the hot little dollar stock that I want to hold on to this thing. But if it starts moving lower, I'm going to be one of the very first people out. Once it starts moving down a few pennies, or if it breaks a key level on a real short term level. But I'll get back in. I don't mind getting in and out, but I just don't trust them.
Perfect. Thanks. Because I find it's difficult too to kind of adapt to something that you kind of just may not have that high conviction level. But as long as you're participating, some of these moves that we're seeing are pretty outrageous. So it's great to that you're capturing some of the alpha.
Yeah, it's always that that balance. What is the perceived risk? And then you look at the chart, you look to the left there, and you see how it can go from a couple bucks quickly up to $1.50 up to $4.50 very quickly. That keeps you interested in saying, what's this one that's going right now, DXYZ or something like that. I didn't trust that one. I was looking at the other day going, I'm not going to get involved in that. And here we go again with this thing. It's doing the same thing it did over to the left before. So those ones, I don't know truly what the story is on this. I think that I read they
invest in private companies, and SpaceX is 37% of their holdings. So this is total Musk trade right here.
Right. So it's based on really not very much other than momentum, because who knows what did SpaceX just get valued that much more? And maybe it did because of Tesla, because Tesla did, right? So who knows? Maybe it's a legit thing, but I missed this one. And, maybe BBAI is going to be this type of one, SoundHound, Lunar. And, very similar to the SMR stocks recently.
It's like the retail stocks, and like I watch this too. It's like they come in and out of favor. And once like a few of these retail names, like the darlings that are talked about on X, that are talked about on the Reddit boards, that are talked about in the Discord rooms, that are really out there. There's like that following there. And when they start igniting, they can really go. And it seems like one starts going, the other starts going. And I don't think it's a coincidence here that even GameStop is starting to perk up here again, GME. I mean, it was obviously, the start of it all here. But if you look, just give us maybe some quick thoughts here on GME, because it's starting to look a little bit more lively as well. And full disclosure, I am long GME.
I agree that you just look at the chart, it looks ready to go. I would say that one thing to be aware of is the year-to-date anchored VWAP at 27.5. We're not there, but I would just say be aware of it. It has been a trouble back in July, June and July. So just be aware of that one. But yeah, I mean, GME is on its way. You can't fight that type of momentum. It's one that's kind of on my banned list. I just don't. It doesn't interest me. To me, I probably shouldn't say why. I kind of have a snobby thing about it. I guess that it's just Reddit board people on it, and you know what? They're doing well with it. So that's my mental hang up.
Brian, before we let you go, you talked about like the events from last week, right? The Fed meeting, the election. Well, we have your buddies, Fed Waller, Kashkari, Harker, Barkin speaking on the 12th. We have CPI on the 13th, and we have PPI on the 14th. I mean, everything is rosy. Talk about any adjustments. I mean, incredible rally here. Are you just going to just ride these out? Inflation's gone. We don't have to worry about rates. Trump's in the White House. Everything's perfect. Or will you make some necessary adjustments ahead of those inflation numbers?
Yeah, the great question. I mean, there's always a headline to be aware of, or, maybe worry about. PPI and CPI are somewhat important right now. So I think that in terms of would I be putting a new swing trade position on the night before, probably not, unless I really like it and think the stock can stand up on its own merits. But I have to look at the market overall and say, we've had a really nice run. Even if we get good news, it might be good news gets sold into at this point. So I would, any new positions that, come the day before the CPI would likely be a smaller share size for me, just realizing that it has that potential, like I said, to become a sell the news event. So, yeah, that's basically it, Joel.
All right, we'll wrap things up here with Brian Shannon, Alpha Trends. You guys all know him on Twitter, giving us a good technical outlook on the markets. Thanks so much for joining us over here, and
thank you.
We're definitely going to get you back on again soon. Thanks a lot, Brian.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, guys, that was Brian Shannon, of course, on Twitter at Alpha Trends. If you want more from Brian, some great content there on X. All right, we've got about, let's say, 43 minutes left till 10 a.m. We're doing 2 hours.
I know. What are we going to do?
Well, it leaves us some more time for ticker time. We also have a few more. I mean, I'm just looking at my pre-market screener here, which stocks are moving. It looks like we do have a couple other, movers that we haven't gotten to yet. So where do you guys want to go?
I think, and Christian, we were talking about this too, but just earnings preview this week. There's some big names reporting here. Not a lot of names. It's a lot less names this week. We're starting to come towards the back end of earnings season, but there is some retail darlings reporting. And I tell you again, sometimes things are just working well. And this trade that I always talk about, owning stocks ahead of reports, is really working well here right now. Take Shopify, for instance, same thing, up another $2 ahead of the report. It's run $10 in the last 4 days. It's going to report on Tuesday. I want to get Christian's thoughts here because Christian, I know, has to go for the open as well. So I want to get his quick thoughts on just a couple of stocks, and Shopify is the first one.
Yeah, and I actually did see, for those that like option activity, I did see some calls that went up. I think this was just on Friday, where somebody was speculating, right around the earnings for Shopify. I saw the November, and I think the this week's calls, because by the way, Friday is also monthly options expiration. We saw the November 92 calls bought for about $3. It's about an $860,000 trade. So I will be participating in Shopify for this week for earnings, because like, it's just right in the wheelhouse of possible momentum. I think, even though it's, to your point, it's run quite nicely since the middle of last week, but this is the weekly chart, and if you zoom out, which I think is important to do at this point, you could say, because so many names are kind of returning back to those highs that you saw back in 2022, this could have a nice runway to kind of go higher. So I think that there's good possible risk to reward. Again, we don't know what's going to happen on earnings, but I will be putting on a long call spread for this to participate in possible upside.
Spotify is the other one I wanted to ask you about. I always put these stocks as Shopify, Spotify, they're completely different companies, but they are retail darlings here. Spotify has been unbelievable. You're talking about a stock at an all-time high. I know I give them, I think it's like $16 or $20 every month. At least my wife does. So, I'm always rating them a check here as well. I mean, what are your thoughts on this one? Expected move. I'll just grab that for you as well.
Dennis, you don't have a checkbook. No one has a checkbook. You don't
I have
use a check.
checkbooks.
I have a checkbook.
I still use
too.
checks, but
Yeah.
Spotify's expected move is $40. So $40 expected move here. Thoughts on going on this one, Christian?
It's actually, and it's gone up. It's got some pretty good earnings history. It's gone up 4 of the last 5 quarters. The last two times it reported earnings, it was up 11%, and then last quarter it was up 12%. This is just a little bit tougher in my opinion, because it's already, like, the move is already somewhat, like, I don't want to say priced in, but you're at highs. So I think that there's less risk to reward here, but I would keep in mind, that implied move and so forth. I think that this one, I would be buying if it dipped. So if there's any type of just, a little bit of sell the news type dip, I would be going after it a little bit, because I think Spotify is the premier company, like streaming. Like, so for example, like Netflix is the top company, and for TV, this is the top company. And what they have, Joe Rogan, who's had some good has gotten a lot of viewership over the last week or so too. So I like the name. It's just a little bit harder to kind of go after it here.
And we're on it now too. The new and improved pre-market prep, I believe, is getting up on Spotify.
Yeah,
too.
we're on there now. Josh,
That should be a huge boost to that.
There you go.
I could
yeah.
be short at knowing that, right?
Yeah,
Nobody's
yeah,
short
know
at
it. Yeah, know the short interest on it. But Christian, we got a couple minutes here with you left here. We've leaked off the open just 11 handles. What do you look at, like, in the open here? I know some days I taught you, and like, this is a trimming day, or this is an adding day, or whatever. And I know you like your, the futures. Not much in there here. What are you looking off the open, to see if maybe this market's gonna have a little check back?
Yeah, I didn't come into this week with a big watch list. I normally do that, but there's just so many of these momentum names that have gone up so much. I'm kind of more in the, hey, let's see how we start going for the week. And to your point too, you mentioned that we're going to have CPI and PPI. I, my thought is that if for some reason this market dips, and it could be on something else, I think that there's a lot of investors that, and when I say investors, it's funds and so forth, that are going to have to chase some of this performance, because it's moved. We're talking about this. We're just going back to Wednesday, and all these moves have happened in the last like 3 days. So some funds are just not as fast, and they're going to be left with, considering that we're almost at year end, they're going to be looking at their performance and saying, how am I going to gather assets for next year if I've been underperforming? So I think that the dips will be shallow because I think that there's going to be investors that are going to have to be forced to chase here. So yeah, I would be waiting for a little bit of some type of I don't want to say a check back, but even sideways price action. But I have a hard time believing that the rest of the year. I'm trying to come up with negatives just as a scenario analysis, but I really think that some of these funds are going to have to be chasing this performance.
I feel like chasing this performance, and I never chase. Okay, maybe.
By the way, before I leave, I was just going to say just one more earnings name that I'm watching this week is ONON. I don't know if you guys have the shoes, but I think this is also one of those names that could catch some momentum if they
Yeah.
report some good earnings. So I'll be looking at this name.
Do you have the shoes?
I do have a pair of the shoes too. They're okay with me. Like, I'm not like a crazy, like, oh, I've got to go out and get the latest, styles and so forth. But I do like the shoes. They're okay. And I see when, I don't know if you guys have been in like any running shoes or, sports where you've needed to get sneakers. I don't see Nikes as much as I see like this brand and a few other brands out there too. So I think this will be an interesting, earnings report to watch this week.
All right, thanks, Christian, and we'll be picking up again with you tomorrow. Dennis, I know you're getting ready to trade the open here.
I'm going to stick with you for 2 minutes. 9:25 NASDAQ imbalances come out. You're going to see some movement here. Again, this new show, this new format allows us to talk stuff that we don't normally talk on pre-market prep because we simply have more information at this time. So right now, New York Stock Exchange imbalances come out at 8 o'clock. Those are bouncing around here a little bit. Standouts are Bank America, 468,000 to buy. JP Morgan, 54,000 to buy. Both those stocks trading up 1.5% respectively. Oil is weak. Just cherry picking a few other names here. Obviously, Bristol Myers is going to be on the radar, and its indication is it's actually indicated with a sell imbalance, but I think that's going to flip, which is interesting. That's not going to hold. So we got that NASDAQ imbalances coming here right now, and they are mixed here. So some to the sell side. Apple, heavy sell imbalance, 232,000 shares to sell. So if you bring up Apple, you'll see it falling here right now as that information just got released onto the market here. Amazon was trading way up earlier, but it's got a 70,000 share sell imbalance, so it's come in a little bit here too. Bezos did sell more stock on Friday or last week, so he continues to sell. He sold and averaged out at 205. So the Bezos wall still stands, but God, it's just talk about the resilience of that stock. You got Bezos nonstop selling, and the stock's going up. So, I mean, the buyers are overpowering the Bezos selling. If he ever stops selling, that stock could really start moving here. Still long Amazon. It's a big position, my wife's portfolio and my own portfolio as well. So quickly, just before I go, I'll give you one more minute, and you guys are going to have to run with that. I'm going to stay on with you in the background. I will come back, but I got to trade the open here. Just trying to cherry pick a few more. Tesla, 232,000 shares to buy. Stock's up 24 more points. I don't even know what else to say about that stock here right now. Shopify, 98,000 to buy. Man, these imbalances, they're a little bit both ways here, but wow, these are big moves, man, in both directions in some stocks. Keep an eye out. Bristol Myers could end up opening too low here. I actually might try to buy some.
Yeah.
Well, it's coming in here a little bit here now. It's still like they're trying, but to your point, Joel, when you have a book as thick as Bristol Myers, I'm not saying it's going to open at 61. I'm saying it's indicated open 57.5 right now. So buyers are trying to come in. So what you're seeing here happen is people are shorting it in the open market, and buyers are coming in. Now it's up to 58, so they're trying to move it up. But there's so many probably orders that were sitting on the book holding this price down. This thing was just at 62. So, I mean, if you could get this at 15, now it's 58.75. It's moving up here, that opening price. So,
and
it's
look at this. And the price is coming down.
It's trying to meet. So as you get, you're going to meet 59.5. Now they're moving it up. Now they're coming back. So now it's like looking like the buyers are really coming in here.
You know where it's going to open?
You know
where it's going to open?
60, maybe it's 59, not 60 indicated now. So they're bringing up that indication here. Really interesting.
I'll just go with the price. I say 61. I say 61.
They may get it up to there. So the buyers are coming to start to emerge here. So anyways, I'm going to just be in the background here. Well, I'll stay on. I'm just going to mute myself. I'm going to trade out some of these opening positions. Stick with us. We're going to take you through the open.
Okay. All right. AB, how you doing there, buddy? The old mute trick on AB.
Ooh, it wouldn't even let me unmute it. My thing was frozen. What about what about Robinhood? We haven't talked about Hood
The
yet
hood.
today, but that's been one of the hottest stocks. And you got the clear catalyst right now with crypto rising, as a lot of people trade their crypto on Robinhood. But this thing was heating up even really before Bitcoin started its run. So Robinhood to me, looks very interesting, maybe a little bit extended
Wow.
here, but continuing to break out. Joel, I'm curious your thoughts technically here on Robinhood.
All right. Well, you're way off what was this from yesterday? Let me make sure. Oh, that's the 5 minute. Let me tighten the chart up here. The 15 minute to get your after hours and pre-market action. Holy mackerel. They took this to 33.92. That's a buck away. So we'll be using that on a target. I think longer term here, though, you want to go to your retracement lines. Whoever thought, yeah, we're going to get a 50% retracement in here. If you're holding out for that, that's closer to the $46 area on a big move, only at trading at 32.96. So I'm gonna try it. It'd be one of these things where you open up at 33, try and get up to that pre-market high. That's a big move of $2.50. So I don't know if you took some flyer on some 30 calls or some shorter term dated stuff. Maybe you want to trade the stock against it. But that's a nice windfall. Wow, traded up 242. Way where were you back? You weren't even under 30. Yes. Oh yeah, you hit a high. If you're looking for a gap fill in this one, that will be down at 30.63 for Robinhood.
All right, we'll keep it ticking here with some other stocks that people are mentioning in the chat. What about checking on Palantir, Joel, which we covered extensively last week? I mean, the company reported earnings. Then, of course, you had the election. Peter Thiel, one of the co-founders of Palantir, is obviously a big donor and close with JD Vance. So you got to figure that, hey, look, just like with Tesla and Elon Musk and Donald Trump, if Peter Thiel is friends with JD Vance and a lot of Palantir's revenue is reliant on government contracts, you got to think that's good news for the company.
Quick look at Palantir. Big move up a buck 45. Where was your opening print there? Your opening print is 60.25. That's way off the pre-market high. Open 60.13, at least I'm not sure if that was a New York print. So if you want to play the momentum, let's see if you're taking out the high from yesterday. Coming back on the downside, if you're looking, a lot of times you see a quick gap fill here. That would be at 58.48. So that's what you're looking for, potential support. And some people might be thinking, oh, I should have resold this at 60. So see if you can get 60 on a rebound. Just had to check out this BMY. Dennis was talking about maybe it opening too low. I thought it might open at 61. First print 60.72. You did pop up over with 61.08. I mean, if you look at standard deviations in this move, I mean, this is way off the chart for BMY. Now coming in, I don't know if we'll ever fill the gap here in BMY. And then what was the stock that got hit? Oh, AbbVie, ABBV. That's the one that got hit. Still digesting the move off the pre-market low substantially there for Abby. Monday.com. I don't like Mondays. They hate Mondays here. This thing is continuing to get pummeled, taking out the pre-market low. Next, well, you got a gap fill. If you've been waiting for this gap fill at 263.20 from September 18th, get your bid out there. Could be hitting it today.
All right, another one I see in the chat is Kava, which is getting set to report earnings tomorrow afternoon. Kava here up another 3% this morning, Joel. And talk about stocks. I mean, I've still never tried. Have you tried Kava yet?
I have not, but obviously everyone else has. When do they report? After the close on Tuesday?
After the close tomorrow, yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the only thing you have here, the pre-market high, 151.95. That's the only number I have for you in Kava.
All right, and then just checking in on the overall market here. We were above 600. we were above $600 earlier on the S&P. Now we leaked a little bit off that, but looks like still set to open right around all-time highs here on the S&P.
Oh, we did here. This is what I'm going to say here. And I was hoping to get a little run up to the pre-market high. Try a little bit of a lower risk short there, not based on anything else because there's nothing else in there. But what you got to keep an eye on here, and this is like really short-term trading, so don't get too carried away with that. The only thing I have for you is mid-range on the day, and that comes in at 41.50. The intraday 50% retracement that held off the open here. The current low is 41.75. So if you want all this rallyiness to continue, boom, hold this this intraday low 41.75 and continue to work your way up that pre-market high 60.53 and a quarter. So right now, a little bit of a pullback off the open, but the bulls are definitely holding bid here. But if you take out this that current low, there's some downside there. You don't have the close, the old time closing high would be the next level. And that comes in at, oh, wow, that's 25 and a quarter. And you didn't even see that in the regular session. So bulls are still holding the bid here as long as we can stay above that mid range 41.50.
It's an interesting open. Like Bristol Myers, so I sold 2/3 of my long-term position here. I got out near the high, 60.95. I put the order out there just under 61. I always, you know how I like to price things, so I teach you pricing. If you think my target's 61 and I'm selling, I always go right below that because sometimes the mark will be like, like you can't get through. There might be a big seller there, so I'm always in front of it. So I put my order out 60.95. Pre-open on my long-term. Again, I held 1/3 of the position, just a small piece of the position. But this is just such a big move so fast. I mean, how often Bristol didn't even say anything and they get 11% pop? It feels like overdone. I feel like I'm going to get a shot to re-enter at a better price. So lightening up. Didn't sell the entire position again, held that little piece, but sold 2/3 of the position. It was a fantastic trade. I bought this at 41 and basically just sold it at 61 here about 6 months later. Would have never thought I'd make that much in Bristol Myers that quickly. So sometimes what's your saying? Never look a gift horse in the mouth, Joel? Is that how you say it?
I mean, I didn't want to say anything, to influence you off the open, but man, oh man, I mean, that's 61. What did you have for the New York print?
The New York Open was 60.50. So it opened a little bit lower. We thought it might open too low. It was indicating like it was going to open like at 60, but then it came up 60.50. So it's within range. This is where it was trading. It was up to as much as 62 pre-market, which was obviously overdone. So it's come back down within range here. But this just feels like, the time when everybody was selling, now the time is everybody's buying here. I feel like at this point in time, here's Bristol Myers again. Valuation's still cheap. There's still fundamentals behind the company here. They're going to start to figure some stuff out, but I feel like too much too fast here for BMY.
All right, taking some more tickers from the chat here. Let's talk.
Tesla.
You want to talk more Tesla?
No, it just keeps going. I don't even know what to say on it anymore. I mean, it's probably one of my best calls of all time. And it just keeps. I haven't. Part of me wants to lighten up a little bit. Like the trader in me says, "What are you doing, Dennis? You're up so much so fast." But then the investor in me says, "Man, everything is just working right for him. Like you want to uninvest with him now when he's best friends with the future president?" I mean, there's so many things that are going to be coming here that I can't lighten it up right now. I mean, if I had it on for a trade, to Brian Shannon's point, I'd probably lighten up into this. But I got in the long-term account just not looking at it. So for instance, I'll just bring up my kids' RESP. And I think I started and I had 25% of their overall RESP was in Tesla. Because the stocks went up so much, it's now 36% of their RESP. And the RESP is in Canada, it's the Registered Education Savings Plan. So you go into this and you can contribute up to, I think it's $5,000 a year or something like that for, and then the government will match or match a piece of it. So, you just do this and it's obviously for their university education, but you can invest stocks in it. And so in their RESP right now, I've got AMD, AeroVironment, Baidu, which is the only one they're down in Viking too. I have them in a little bit of Viking. I got them in some Bitcoin. I got them in some Loblaws preferred, which is just like a Canadian stock that was yielding 6-7%. It's like just a little diversification there. Nvidia, Tesla, and VKTX. So it's 36% Tesla, 12% Nvidia, 12% AMD, 10% AMD, 10% Baidu, and only 3%
He
Bitcoin.
won't
as
need
a
to
small
go to
Bitcoin position.
college. He won't
Yeah,
need to go.
yeah, this is just trying to retire them before they go to college. But that's long term. I've just been, trying to put them in. I have them all in the markets. There's really no cash in there besides the little Loblaws preferred. And I have a little, a little bit of cash in there, and I have a little bit of Viking in there too for them. And the Viking is, hasn't been great because it went all the way up and it came all the way back down. But yeah,
What about Apple?
I mean,
What about Apple here, Dennis?
yeah, let's talk Apple. I mean, what Tesla's gain? We talked about this in the pre-market, and we got this right here too. Tesla's gain is Apple's pain here right now. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Apple is down because Tesla's up. This is the way ETF effects work. When they are ripping a major component of the Qs, and I mean Tesla's up 8% here right now, the Qs are only up 0.1%. They've got some math. They've got to sell off some other stuff. So what are they selling off? They're selling off Apple. They're selling off Meta. Zuck was anti-Trump really for a long time. I mean, so you've got a little bit of that trade in there too happening here. Microsoft is up, trying to hold on. Amazon is now trying to hold the gains. We still remember, and Amazon was way up. I don't know why it's up 1.5%.
It had some news. That
was it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was way at 6 a.m. that they were trying to develop some glasses to help their drivers navigate. So I don't know. I don't think that will knock Meta down 8.5, and that's trading in the red here. But yeah, you kind of have a mixed picture here with Apple, Nvidia, and Meta and Broadcom in the red here. Microsoft. I mean, this is not a Mag 7 rally. I mean, that rotation here is on full blown.
Yeah, it is.
IWM. Look at that gap and go on this one. So clear separation. Monday.com. Someone get a bid out there. It's down almost $54 at 266, 260.67. So there's Monday.com for it. AB,
There's
what
so much
else?
separation here. Just stop here for a second because
Yeah.
there's so many important lessons. When a stock misses and the guidance is light, they're just not coming in and buying the stocks. So it gets worse. You think about this earnings season. We've had a lot of disasters that have only gotten worse. In some cases, like in the DraftKings, names like that are really loved, those ones bounce back, like the retail darlings. But I wouldn't put Monday.com as a retail darling. And two, when you're talking a little bit lighter guidance, they're like taking you out to the woodshed and beating you, and then that's it. And they're not bouncing back quickly. And it's down 63 and continues to leak. This market is all about stock picking right now. It's not about everything going. It's about if something is going, something else is selling out. The semis, Christian Fromhertz, shout out to Christian here. I know he's trading the open there, so he had to leave us. The semis are a disaster here today. They're down 1.5% here now. So you have a market that's holding up well. Tesla's, approaching $350 a share. I can't even believe it. You got the semis down. SMH is down 1.5%. You've got just even going Nvidia's turned to the red there now. AMD is down, but you dive under. Micron down $3.50. Applied Materials has went red here now. Qualcomm trading down. Qualcomm's been a disaster. I have that one in my long-term portfolio, so that one has not been great. Intel's turned red here now too. So I mean, it is not a market of everything going, and it's just awesome for everyone. It's awesome if you're in the right stocks.
Yeah, and people in the chat talking about ELF down.
I know. I see ELF, and here was one I liked it. And then I had a good trade on it. And then you know what it did? It did the old Gil Morales undercut and rally trick there 4 days ago, where it breached 100, went down to $98.50, shake out the stops, and then straight up. And, obviously there's earnings report in there, I believe, too. Was Alf last week?
No, someone else had bad earnings. Estee Slaughter, I think.
Estee Slaughter. Yeah, EL. Yeah. And then they was down on it, and then they turned it around, and obviously it's been straight up since then. So I mean, I talked about this as a possible turnaround story, but the shakeout there pretty vicious there at 98.50. Wish I would have got back in. So if you're still in Alf, congratulations, it's a big pop.
Yeah, trading up over $10.50, gap and go. No, I'm not seeing any news on it on my sources, Dennis. But just a momentum market. Let's check on the other beauty stocks. So Ulta, is that the one that Warren's in?
Yes.
Yep. Yep. That hasn't really participated rally
Not
here.
much.
No, it
So
hasn't.
when is Celsius? Because we talked about Elf and Celsius kind of trading together. I mean, Celsius has got to be due for a breakout here at some point, right?
It's so weak, and the story is so ice cold here now. This was a story that was so hot, and it was valuation. I mean, I talked about Celsius 27.78. That was the low of the move. You're right there approaching it here now. It's just like the market's going, everything's going, and this stock is not. This is the definition of relative weakness. A trader like Brian Shannon's going to be like, "What are you doing?" And Brian's such a great, and we should have Brian on a lot more. Like I've learned so much on Twitter. I'm always going to call it Twitter, but I've learned so much from Brian Shannon over the years. And whenever I go to start buying a stock that's in a hard downtrend, I have Brian in my ear saying, and he'll use an a cuss word at me. Is like, "Do not buy stocks in downtrends. Like, don't." Like it's just it's just the disaster that it is. Wait till the trend starts turning. And I mean, Celsius is in such a vicious downtrend here. You're saying it's all bag holders. I mean, everybody in this stock is bag holding it. So it's not like, it gets up to 30 and the person's there like, "Thank you for giving my money back." And it gets up to 31, "Thank you for giving me my money back." I mean, that's where Celsius is. That's why it's so hard for stocks that are breaking down and making new lows to turn it around. So, you like to think like that everything's going to turn around eventually, but unfortunately, we're just not in that market where a rising tide lifts all ships. A rising tide is only lifting those ships of stocks that are basically, in uptrends here. So right now, if your stock's in a downtrend, stay away.
Yeah, boy. All right, Dennis, watch your bids here. The bears have all of a sudden emerged here. S&P is still trading up here. Didn't get quite to the pre-market high, 53 and a quarter, but what I looked at, you made a run at the intraday high at 45 and a quarter, or it was 45. They made another run at it, and that just caught a quick turn. So the big boys are leading us lower here. If you're looking for a catalyst here for the decline, you got it right here. You got Apple.
Apple.
They're looking. Yep, you're looking at bids. Give me a
Apple.
bid in Apple. Nvidia, who was mentioned as the best pick ever, a stock you'd immediately buy at Piper today. That's down 230. Microsoft is now down a dime. Amazon now just falls to the red. Google's still holding up. They're not liking the meta here. So we've lost the 50% retracement on this one. Pre-market low is what you got to be keeping an eye out for right now. 29.50 is your pre-market low. That comes in just above your close at 25 and a quarter. So if we had anything, let's see how the first bracket here. I like to watch the first 15-minute bracket close. That comes in right. Wow, that was a quick sell-off. 38 even. So right now, big tech turning the market here.
Yeah, the tail of the tape here is somewhat concerning here. It's so nice to do the show after we open here because everything was looking, pretty good for a lot of stocks, but you can see weakness popping up all over the place here now. Profit taking happening to this. Even Tesla, 350 5 minutes ago here, straight down 10 points. So careful here. I mean, if you're chasing these things, momentum's breaking right now as we speak. Nvidia, to your point, Joel, that's a vicious sell-off. Opens up at the high of the day. We were talking about Christian Frommertz. Shout out, Christian. He's calling semi-weakness. Nvidia opened up a buck, high tick, open at the high tick, straight down $3. So semis are the reason that we're starting to roll over here. Now, Apple's coming. I mean, Micron's down 4 points here now. Applied Materials, which reports on Tuesday, it opened at its high tick almost, down 4 points here as well. I mean, you've got some weakness popping up all over the place. I know the S&Ps are looking okay here, and that's, a lot because, you got a lot of, other companies in there, and there is, it's still a lot of green on my screen. But some of the leaders are lagging here right now.
And Nvidia does report next week. So, there's a chance that a lot of these semi names, I think, are maybe just going to be kind of trading in a range. And because I think they're all anticipating this report and waiting and seeing what happens there with Nvidia's report. I believe that's next Wednesday. Let me check real quick. Yeah, Wednesday, November 20th for Nvidia reports. Other stocks I'm seeing in that
PayPal. People asked about. I wrote down all these tickers, and then I get excited watching the market, and I had all these tickers I wanted to cover for you guys. But The one I keep seeing here is PayPal. Let's take a look at PayPal here. That's traded up 220. Got hit on the earnings, and I think it got hit. Look at Square. Look at both those stocks. You were looking for it. The Square went first. That got hit off its earnings. That bounced. What do you? I'll look at PayPal just to give you a level.
Oh
Trading
my
at
gosh, Square. What the hell's going on there? These are crazy moves in both directions here. So it gets hit. Now you get the whole reversal, and now it's up 7%. Is there a headline there? It's up $5. Where's
I don't
that
know.
coming from? There is
Yeah.
just separation happening here
Well,
everywhere. Here. It's such an interesting market.
Square's kind of more of a Bitcoin play too.
Mhm.
It always was. You also have, okay, there is a rating. Piper Sandler comes out. Our friends at Piper here. We should know. Piper
Yeah,
Sandler soon
$83
walk at an
price
overweight.
target.
So put an $83 price target. Arvin Ramani from Ramnani from Piper.
Well,
Puts
now
an
the
overweight
stock's
on
at
it.
$80.
You just butchered that name. I'm never going to get him
Sorry,
on
he
the
may never come
show.
on. We're friends with the Piper people. Okay, sorry. I never try to say last name again.
If you could have caught this thing going through 78, but that was a good trade. That was an old double top. Now use, if you look at continuation, another down move here in the S&P. They got an eye for that pre-market low at 29.50. So we'll keep on that. The actual old-time closing high, that's at 25 and a quarter. I still getting distracted from PayPal here. What do you do on this one? Last month's high was 83.70. So just let's see what happens. But if you're looking for a stop today, maybe throw it there at 83.70. Definitely a big momentum here to the upside. Next monthly level, 92.62. No. What do we got here? 88.63. If your next target is 88.63, that was your Feb 23 high. Someone keeps asking me about LB. Dennis, if you know anything about these stocks, let me know.
I don't know,
Land
Landers.
Bridge,
I don't know that stock at all.
new all-time high. Keep an eye, 75.50. You did take it out, but now you're below it. So there's your big level. No support. If you take out Friday's low, 69.82, look out. You got some move on the downside there, down to 64.39.
You know what stocks had a really big move, and we don't talk about a lot, is Gilead Sciences, GILD. It's approaching $100. I mean, this was a stock that just seemed to always trade $65, $70. If you'd ask me where Gilead is, it's probably $70. For basically, 6, 7, 8 years, we had the COVID pop, where it obviously became, a COVID stock there for a little while and went from 65 to 85. But I mean, this is a stock that has just been quietly doing nothing forever. And I mean, go out to the monthlies forever. We're breaking out here, Joel, and Gilead here. So, I don't know, I don't follow the story closely enough to, know if there's a specific drug that's driving this here. But GILD is getting close to $100. This has been a big move.
Yeah, separation by Merck that I wanted to dump at 115 after it broke the monthly support. That's separation here. Also,
Merck, Pfizer, they're in the gutter too. Bristol Myers been good.
Yeah. Nice sale there, Dennis. Nice sale there on that.
Well,
one.
we don't know yet, but we're doing okay on it so far.
on.
It's down $1 from where I sold it here. I still have a small piece, but I sold 2/3 of the position today. You got to ring the register when your pharmaceutical company, as big as Bristol Myers, goes up 50%. It's been in the gutter. You basically basically just got lucky and picked the bottom. I mean, it gets half the losses back from 2023, 2024. I think you got to ring the register into some of this. Sometimes, you got to ring the register.
All right, going back to the chat real quick, some other stocks here. We talked Upwork yet?
No, we
I
haven't.
know we talked Upstart earlier, but Upwork here, I see in the chat twice. Upwork, pretty quiet today. Let's see if we've got any upcoming earnings.
Yeah, and you just wonder Upwork, if Monday.com's putting a little bit, pressure, and I don't know how much overlap we have here. It's different, but UPWK obviously is hiring company. $10 to $18 in 3 weeks. That's just a huge move. It was up 80% basically in 3 weeks, and now it's giving some back and starting to fill some gaps. We'll throw it to Joel here. You talk about gaps.
I wish.
Some of these stocks are just overdone.
Yeah, I wish they would have asked me that before the open because you did have like that crazy day on Thursday where it went to 17 to 79, and then you had to check back, and on that day you closed at 16 and a quarter. But just to emphasize the importance of why I like to look at the closes, that was a recent high close of the move at 16 and a quarter. Look at your high. Your high on Friday was just above that. Someone's like, hey, I want out at the mark. So it goes to 1627. They were persistent again today as it went to 1630 only. Now you're still holding above yesterday's low, but important to get that 1630 bid here, get this back working up towards the high of the move. But definitely have someone trying to wiggle out. I wouldn't be selling on weakness until you took out that low from Friday at 1552.
Also in the chat, Affirm, multiple people, Spinner talking about it. Also, Wellness Matters talking about it. I mean, here's a stock that dipped on earnings, but it's a retail darling, and all of a sudden it's back. So put on your list when you get the real retail darlings. We're not talking the Mondays, the ones that people talk about relentlessly, in these chat rooms. And Affirm is one of them. I mean, you get these dips, where the earnings aren't that bad, down to $42, $43. It's right back. It comes right back. DKNG is same story. Retail darling, dips on the earnings. Actually, I think got down to $35 or $36. You won't see it on the chart, but in the after hours there, it was trading down. Comes right back. I mean, there's Affirm. Those are the dips you want to buy. The stocks that are pretty much in uptrends so far this year, and the stocks that are relentlessly talked about in the chat rooms. Those are the stocks you want to be in.
Okay. What about CVNA? And then that was a darling. Same thing, right? Did it have earnings get hit? Boom, right back up.
Right
Was
back
that
up.
the catalyst for the decline on that? AB, where are we going? We got 6 minutes left.
We are going to, let's do Service Now real quick. Might also be moving on Monday.com, but actually Service Now is up here $12 or 1.2%. I saw that one in the chat earlier here. So ticker now is looking decent right now.
Stock does everything right here too. I mean, this company's run, obviously, Kramer's a big fan of the company as well. Always has a CEO on the show. I mean, these are just incredible moves here. NOW. It doesn't even look like, it's just been in a steady uptrend. I mean, these are the stocks that just seem to continue here. So I think it's all about buying the trending stocks here right now. We're back to momentum market where if the stock's in an uptrend, you're buying dips on it. If the stock's in a downtrend, you're selling rips on it. And Service Now is definitely in an uptrend. New all-time highs.
All right, I'll bite my tongue, and Jay will remind me, but I'll call you a double top here in Service Now, 1024.44. That was your high on Thursday. Your high today, 24.37, and now you've backed off. So I keep a close eye on that level. That's a major resistance, double top at the all-time high here in shares of Service Now. Dennis, can we get off the mat here? Are they going to defend a pre-market low here? We missed it by 3 points. So people looking for they
are coming in and buying the dip. They can't help themselves. And you know what? I can't help myself here to a certain extent here either, because there's just so many names, you don't want to miss it. So then people are still rah, bull, bull. So, certain names are coming into. I will say Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon have all went red. Tesla dipped $10 just like that, and then bang, they're starting to buy back up again. Keep an eye though. 350 is a big psychological level here. Let's see what it does. It's in the middle of the range here. Jury is out still on today here. Nvidia is still breaking down here, so it makes me almost think like, as a trader here, you maybe want to lighten up a little bit of risk here right now. I don't like the leaders not leading. I don't like Nvidia breaking down and making new lows here right now as we speak, because eventually the S&Ps can't hold on. So the S&Ps are trying to hold on with other stocks, but when you lose Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Nvidia, 5 of the big 7 here right now, Tesla's trying to hold up a lot, but eventually that may crack here too. I think this could actually turn into a red day if this continues here. We need to see some strength. Nvidia is going to be your leader. If Nvidia continues to leak here, the S&Ps are going to go red if Nvidia continues to leak.
All right, real quick, we got a couple more minutes. What about have we talked about Axon at all real quick?
Oh my gosh, there's another one. The move in this one was nothing short of incredible on Thursday. Look at the move.
Yeah,
Look
Axon
at these moves, Joel.
Axon reported Thursday afternoon and then got some upgrades Friday. But of course, this was an election stock too, because it's, law enforcement tasers, and people are thinking, okay, well, if the new administration is going to be spending more money on law enforcement, Axon should be a beneficiary of that. So, throw it into that group of stocks that has the retail, the kind of election. I mean, the election stocks are what retail's focused on right now. So they have that overlap there. And then you throw the earnings in there as well. And this thing has just been absolutely breaking out.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What am I going to say about this one, guys? Come on. I'm not even going to call it double top. You got a better level, though, to watch. I mean, that 611.88, if that was your target, good job. And you got it today, went to 12.75. But look at that close, man. That close. Wow. How much did that move up? Did it really move up over $100? It did.
Yeah. It's a Trump stock. It's another Trump stock.
Oh my God!
These are huge moves, man.
Oh, I'm tased. 603.18. That's your old time closing high there. You got far above it, but if the bulls are going to maintain a bid here, 603.18. That was your old time closing high on Friday. You've surpassed it. So your longer term traders here, keep an eye on that one. Dennis,
bring up end phase. Bring up end phase. We're talking chump trades just before you go on here. We're talking the opposite. It's down another 5% here, straight down since Trump's been elected here. It's just that simple, folks. You're a Trump stock or you're not a Trump stock. These are not Trump stocks here. TAN sitting right on the lows, not participating in the rallies whatsoever. What happens when the market starts rolling over? When you have this much weakness here, you can't go up in this tape. You got problems here. Solar Edge is $12.99. First Solar is trying. It is best of breed. It's trying to hold on. It's up $1 here today, trying desperately to hold on. So maybe if you gotta pick your poison here in Solar, it might be that. But I mean, the stock selection, it's all just about stock selection here. It's also why I've lightened up China. I just think at this point in time, I know people are saying, yes, China did okay under the Trump administration in 2016, but he might be tougher on it this time, especially, if he's going to have total control, with the House and the Senate. That changes things here. So Alibaba, I've lightened up, I sold over half my Alibaba. I sold half my Baidu there on that pop a couple days ago.
Oh, you did?
And it was a gift.
Oh,
yeah. So what happened was they got hit, Joel, on the election day. They popped back the next day. And I tweeted it out that day. I'm like, it's a snapback rally. And I'm like, I have new information here now. And I don't think this administration is going to be helpful for China. I don't think it is, So that's why, you got to lighten up. Again, as a trader and investor, you have to constantly be changing your opinion for new information. New information changes the story. Then you've got to, try to lighten up and change, your opinion for those things. And, EWW continues to leak here. We are seeing follow through in the financials. That dip that happened the other day. Remember XLF? We went way up. Then we dipped the next day. That dip got bought, and financials are relentlessly getting bid here right now. Goldman Sachs breaks out over $600 here today. It's up 16 points here right now, Joel. I mean, these are huge moves, but again, this makes perfect sense. If you've got a change in administration that's going to have less banking regulation, the banks are probably something you want to think about. So that dip that happened the next day was the buying opportunity. You had the initial rep, and then the little dip, JP Morgan. Remember that analyst that downgraded to sell? Remember who was that? That was the worst time possible downgrade you could do. Downgrading to sell. It was a big pop, and it dipped like $10, $12 the next day.
Baird. It was Baird.
Was it Baird?
It was Baird. Yeah.
Was it Baird? But the stock pops, and now JP Morgan's starting to look lifey, like starting to look up here again. Again, not making new highs because the analyst knocked down so much. But we got to consider all those things. So right now, you've still got to have your list. I know we had this for the election, but you got to have a post-election here too. Trump stocks and not Trump stocks. Buy below. Not a Trump stock. I didn't even bring it up. Where is it? Just bring it up here right now. And just I hadn't even brought it up. So bring it up here right now. Down $2. That's the first time. So I didn't cherry pick that. I hadn't even looked at it, but it's not a Trump stock. Not Trump stock going down. Trump stocks going up. Have your separation here still, because this is very important to know what stocks the administration is going to support and what stocks they're not. Buy below.
You know what we missed?
You're going to have more tariffs. They're $5 stores. They're going to have to go 10 below. Kramer said it too after I said it, but you have to go 10 below? I mean, I don't know.
you know what? You know what we miss, and then we're running late here. But prison stocks,
Yeah, they're continuing to go
Yeah.
here as well.
Yep.
CXW up another $1.76. GEO up another 6.5% here today. They're right on the Trump list. It's a Trump day. Bitcoin, Tesla, GEO, even DJT bouncing back here, and obviously, this is, a wild card DJT, but Rum's coming back. It's a Trump stock here too. This market went straight to the Trump stocks here. They're all, if you're looking just at the list of stocks that are really strong here today, XLF right at the top of the Trump stock list. That's very strong here too. It's a Trump market right now.
All right. Is it Michael Burry still in those prison stocks, by the way? I don't know. All right, Joel, who do we got coming on with us tomorrow?
Oh, we got a special guest tomorrow at 9 a.m. Triple D working the Twitter. Triple D, I'll let you tell everyone who's coming on tomorrow at 9
We got John Najarian going to come on. So it's been a while. Like John, we love John Najarian. We've been friends with him for a long time. So John Najarian's going to be coming on at 9 o'clock here tomorrow. So we'll look forward to see what he has to say. 8:35 guest?
You know what? I looked and maybe I didn't update my schedule, so I might have to.
We got to go get one.
Yeah,
Christian will be kicking around here too. We still are
Yeah.
having Christian on, off and on. Christian's agreed to come on, indefinitely here with us. So we love having Christian Fromhertz. He brings so much to the show here. Christian's going to be a regular, meaning like we're going to bring Christian on as much as we possibly can. So we love Christian Fromhertz. So yeah.
Okay, Dennis, final thoughts here. I'm holding out. I think the pre-market low here, is that safe at 29.50? We got the 32.50. I'm just going to keep an eye on these big dogs here. Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, all trading in the red here.
This is not good news. Nvidia continues to leak here, folks. S&Ps are trying to hold on, but Nvidia is trading right near the lows. It's impressive. It's impressive that the S&Ps are still green. Like if you would come in and say that Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, Nvidia, we're all going to be red. And red's, pretty substantially with Apple down $4. And the S&Ps, we're going to be green. That's called rotation. And the lifeblood of every bull market is rotation. And I mean the banks and obviously the small caps and some of those Trump stocks we just talked about. Airlines are strong. Rotation station here, folks. Even Bristol Myers bouncing back here, 60.44. Maybe my sale's going to be a bad one.
All right. Well, that'll be a wrap on today's pre-market prep. Thank you to everyone who has hung with us this past couple weeks as we go through this transition. We will be, of course, back tomorrow. And let us know if you have any feedback for the new format, 2 hours. If you want more of some content, less of other content. We're always open to feedback, both good and bad. So please do not hold back there. With that, guys, hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will see y'all tomorrow morning.